Hello and welcome back to Honorable Mentions. I'm Emily Barker,
And I'm Cameron Deshnod.
and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. So, last week, Cam and I went to an on campus event, specifically the school show, and we decided we want to review it for
Yeah.
you today.
It was a lot of fun. Trying to remember, it was Friday night. Yeah. So
Yes, we went on Friday night, and I think I forgot to mention the show this semester was Into the Woods by
Yes.
Stephen Sondheim.
It was really good. I had never seen it before. I went in there totally blind. I didn't like Google anything, but I did hear through the grapevine that it was a lot of like fairy tales kind of
Mhm.
remixed. I always like that. I like when people find inventive ways to, mess around with stuff. So yeah, do you want to kick off the review with how you felt?
Yes. So I was moderately aware of Into the Woods before seeing the show. I had watched the movie version, which is very controversial. There are some people who like it, there are some people who don't. Um I the first time I watched the movie, I wasn't particularly a fan just because I didn't know what to expect and I felt like it kind of dragged. The second time I liked it better. The show, however, was by far the best I've seen of this story. It definitely made me enjoy it more because I feel like what the movie version sort of forgot, which I think they highlighted so well in the show version we saw, was just how funny it is.
It was fun. It was a lot of. I thought it was going to be way darker, honestly, off the bat, but it ended up being a really good time in terms of comedy.
Yeah. Like even in the second act when things got a bit darker, there were still moments. But yeah, the first act, like even though yes, it did adapt some of the darker versions of the fairy tales. And had some pretty dark stuff, like graphic stuff in it.
Yeah,
It was quite fun and very funny.
yeah. I agree. I think it was a good time. I think the first act was better in my opinion. I like the first act a lot more because the fun of it comes not from what's necessarily going to happen to these characters, but rather how are you going to intertangle all these different fairy tales. I think it's masterfully done. I think the introduction of the baker is a lot of fun. That's like a great scene. His whole quest is just a fun time. And then after that, that wraps up. That section wraps up really nicely, and that's kind of the point, right? They all get their
Mm-hmm.
happy endings. So where's it gonna go from here? And after that, I still enjoyed it, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the second act is as much fun simply because now they have to just kind of it felt like he was manufacturing reasons for, things to go awry, right? Like, oh, the princess is bored now. So,
Mm-hmm.
that happens. And they're like, oh, yeah, and spoiler warning to everybody, but I guess we should give that out now. Yeah, one of my least favorite things was like, oh, the baker's wife
Mm-hmm.
cheats on him, right? Just so you can hate her before the death, right? That's the whole point. They got to muddy her so she can die, right? And I'm like, that was like really like, yeah, did they set it up for sure? But it felt really forced to me, all the conflict. Um, so that's my opinion on it.
I think that's a fair take. I mean, I can definitely agree with some of it, but also I feel like a lot of it was foreshadowed in the first act. We saw that Cinderella wasn't quite so sure about the prince. She just kind of got thrown into the situation and decided to go along with it. But she kept running away from the prince night after night. And only got with him because she left the shoe on purpose and let him decide. She didn't actively decide she wanted the prince. And as for the baker's wife, we saw in the first act that, she thought the prince was dreamy. She was always asking Cinderella about him, always got flustered when he came on. So even though I think what we see mostly of her marriage to the baker is happy or at least pretty standard for a couple. I think there was foreshadowed that desire for something more in the first act.
Hmm. I think everything is well foreshadowed,
Mm-hmm.
but I still can't help but feel when it comes back around to all of it, it really does feel like we're just like, and none of it turned out well, which of course is the point, but I don't find it like they didn't do it to me in kind of a genuine way, right? Because I think the end message is like careful what you wish for,
Right.
right? Kind of like that. And I always think that was like a silly one because people give like the examples of the genie. And my favorite thing with that is the Phineas and Ferb thing is like, why do genie wishes always go awry?
Mm-hmm.
Who does this benefit? The genie? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's one of those things where I'm like, that's such a standpoint of people that have a lot, and they're like, be careful what you
Mm-hmm.
wish for, man. If you suddenly became rich and powerful, like you might get bored, man. It might be boring for you. So go back to struggling so your life can be entertaining. And it's like, that was the message there. And then
Mm-hmm.
Jack's message is
Mm-hmm.
if you're gonna steal a lot of stuff, I guess make sure all parties involved are dead. That's that's where it's going, I guess for him. I wasn't he was a plot device more than anything. He was a fun plot device, don't get me wrong. I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoyed Jack, from Jack and the Beanstalk. But I really like I could not for the life of me track his character arc.
That's fair. I mean, one last comment on the overall plot before we delve more into some of the specifics of the Iona production. Um, I'm not so sure if the message is as much be careful what you wish for, as much as it is be careful what you do, because there are people, impressionable people, who are going to see that and will follow. The last song of the show, one of the major parts of it is children will listen. And, you're not necessarily supposed to follow the examples of the people in the show because, and like that's the message is trying to send out is children will listen. And we saw how many people fail and potentially give a bad impression to impressionable people.
Yeah, no, I and there could be multiple messages of a show. I definitely say
That's true.
that's one of them, but just to like kind of counterpoint that as well, the opening song is all about wishing and wanting.
That's true.
Um,
And the last words of the show are Cinderella's I wish.
yeah. So like, I at the very least there is some aspect in like the be careful what
Mm-hmm.
you wish for thing, which again I still find weird just because then the rest of the play is kind of justifying why everything went awry. In a fun, don't get me wrong, I still had a lot of fun with this play. I like the giant's wife that she comes back. I think that's really fun. The way they defeat her is weird. Like that's a little,
Mm-hmm.
it's strange that your climax you would choose to be totally off screen. Moon Knight got away with it. Um, but it was weird that I feel like the witch should have been the ending. Like that's where it felt like it fully culminated.
That's fair. I think kind of that actually leads into what I wanted to say, which was delve into some of the specifics of the show. And I think one of the specifics of our own production is that it did not show the giant. It did not show her ultimate demise. And I believe most other productions do.
Gotcha.
That I think was more a sense of the scale of our theater.
Hmm.
Obviously, Iona's theater is not nearly as big as, like, the stage is not nearly as big as Broadway stage. And they also probably did not have the budget to build like giant legs, for
Yeah.
instance. But I will say, what they did have, they did exceedingly well.
Hmm.
The set, I have so far been to 4 Iona productions. I went to 2 in my freshman year, which were Carrie and Grease. Sophomore year, I missed because of COVID. Junior year, I attended the spring production, which was Bye Bye Birdie. We saw that one together,
Hmm.
Cam, as well. And then finally Into the Woods.
What was the one before that? Was that Adam's Family?
I believe Adam's Family
That's
was
what
the
it
one
was.
before,
I
but I
didn't see
didn't.
that one either.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. But so I will say, of the shows I have seen, this is the one with by far the most fabulous set. They
For sure.
they I think knew that this is a show that you can't exactly have a scaled back set for. And so they went all out.
Oh yeah.
They built woods on the stage with all sorts of different platforms. And it was, they built different props. They had Milky White, the cow, and what other?
They had that. They had the birds on the string, which were kind of funny.
The birds, yes.
They had the tower. I'd count
Oh,
that as
the
a whole
tower.
prop.
I forgot the tower.
That was really cool. Along with what's it called? I don't know if you'd call the bed a prop. But that was there. That was nice. You know, when grandma's lying in the bed and everybody keeps going under it to then
Yeah.
I got that up. But yeah, so they had a lot of cool stuff. I do know though, it was a stage company. I did ask around. So Iona itself did not build that stage. They outsourced, which is fine. Like I agree with that decision in all honesty. I'd like to have like nice looking plays, and stage is a big part of that.
Yes.
Trying to think. Oh, one thing that I want going all the way back to the witch, if you're cool with doing that. I did not understand her death though. I did have to ask because I was like, how did she die? And they were like, oh, her mom strikes her down from heaven. And I was like, was that really it? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, it's kind of wild. It's kind of like, man, those beams were really important to her mom. Like, geez.
Yeah.
That anger you have to be to smite somebody from heaven. Like, God, crazy.
Well, I guess that actually leads into, well, I'm not sure if it quite leads into it nicely, but into a discussion of some of the performances of the show.
Very good.
Obviously, we have to shout out the honors students in the show. I know of at least one. Shout out to Remy, who played one of the stepsisters. Congratulations.
Awesome. Fantastic. Love them. They had a good performance. Yes,
I'm not sure if any other honor students who are in the show. We might need to edit this part out.
That's okay. We keep it in. You know, it goes to show the honors, community has grown quite a lot to the point where we don't even know everybody in it. But if you were in the show, great work. Everybody was phenomenal. There was not a single boring part.
Nope.
I liked literally everybody. And then aside from that, just like, hey, if you are in the honors program and you're not part of the show, or you don't even know any players, still go see them. They're very fun. It's cool.
And if you are an honors student who is in the players and is listening, come on our podcast sometime.
We'd love to interview you.
Yes, you were all very entertaining, and we think you might be a good personality for our podcast. So reach out to us. We'd love to have you. So question, what was your... Two questions, actually. What was your standout performance and what was your standout moment from the show? Like that you're thinking about still days later.
So I don't know her name, but the witch was absolutely fantastic.
Completely agree.
Their vocal range, the way that they just commanded the entirety of the stage whenever they were on it. I love the physicality, how much fun they were clearly having with the role. That was great. So shout out to whoever played the witch. I think I ran into like your friends on the way up. Yeah, again, fantastic. The moment, I'd probably have to go with the agony song. That was my favorite song, and the way those two guys exited the stage every time was just so funny. So shout out to them. They made some characters who didn't have a lot of screen time very, very memorable. The two princes, they were great. How about you?
I completely agree with that as well. Those are definitely standouts for me, but I should probably say something different. Let's see. So well, another standout performance, or rather performances for me, was this one person played three different roles. They played Cinderella's mother and the female giant, which were both off-stage roles. And they also played Red Riding Hood's grandmother. And I want to just give them a shout out because it was not until after the play was done and I was reading through the playbill that I realized they were the three characters were played by the same person. Just completely different voice for all of them.
They were fantastic. Yeah.
Yes. So that was a standout performance for me. So everybody was extremely good in this show.
Good casting.
Yes, very good casting. Like I don't think there was a single miscast.
Oh yeah.
Let's see, a standout moment. I did like the Giants in the Sky number. That's always a knockout in Into the Woods, from what I've heard. Giants in the Sky, which is Jack's big number. I will also shout out it was 2 songs that followed right back to back. It was after the spoiler, Baker's wife dies. And first all the main characters are kind of turning on one another and blaming one another until they ultimately decide to blame the witch. And then the witch responds with the song Last Midnight, which kind of was a showstopper. It was magnificent. Just the way how it was sung, how it was staged. It's the 11 o'clock number, and they sold it.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic. That really is. I not to say that the whole show should have culminated there because you'd have to rework the plot for that, but that was easily like the end song. That was it. So no, yeah, fantastic play. Any other closing remarks?
Again, just well done, and I'm eager to see what they do next.
Yeah, I hope it's another one I haven't heard of. I don't want it to be. I heard rumors about Legally Blonde.
Well, I believe they announced in the playbill that it's going to be Cabaret, which is another, well, it's a quite dark show from what I've heard. So that'll be interesting to see if they can pull that off.
I do
with
know
this cast. I think though they will definitely be able to pull it off.
Oh yeah, for sure. Really, it's Cabaret though. I like the more fantastical stuff. I like a little fantasy in my plays. Give me a good Beetlejuice or But no, yeah, that's awesome.
So then this show was probably perfect for you.
Oh, I love that. They had a great time. I'm sure Cabaret would be good. So anyway, have a good one, everybody.
Yes, as always, if you are interested in coming on our podcast, please reach out to Cam or myself. The link, the email address should be somewhere on the screen or in the description box. And onwards and upwards. See you soon.
Have a good one.